Fortunate here in our community to have Susan Forte represent us as well as she did, and of course she's written a proposal now to become an ambassador for education and honor Krista McAuliffe, and it's just really super that she's willing to do this, that she's willing to take that vision and carry it into the hearts of the children like she has. Following the Teacher in Space program, of course, the model rocketry thing has taken off, and you've done so much with the school system and helped us out at Workman so much that the kids are really beginning to see the value of it. We are incorporating model rocketry in our Young Astronauts program, which we started at Workman 2 years ago.
Okay, and in the Young Astronauts program, you're involving what age groups?
We're dealing with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and they're working real hard right now. We've done something different this year. We've incorporated a ranking system into our program where the students can earn points by improving their grades, participating in science fairs and history fairs. We've got one fellow, Tommy Bell, who won the regional physics division in the science fair this year. He's our top ranked astronaut right now. So it's just getting the kids involved with something that they can look forward to using in their future.
Model rocketry has been kind of a favorite topic in a lot of the science fair projects. I know one of the youngsters over in Alberta is doing one that has to do with the shape of nose cones and drag. Drag on the nose cone there, and there have been a number of others that are using. You've just finished a rocket contest a few weeks ago, and the winner was?
Okay, right now I can't even, I know
have
Victor
some of the
Harm did real
students'
well,
rockets in.
Jessica Parker did real well. Henry Lucane, of course, won that with his rocket. Last we heard, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of Washington High School. We had students searching for it most of the day. For the last 2 years in a row now, it appears that some of the better rockets have gone down range and gotten out of our sight. That happens. But I do have some of the rockets that the children built. This was built by Jessica Parker. She was 5th in the open division. And
so girls can build rockets too. It's all right.
Actually, we have a third of our participation in our astronaut program at school are the girls. They get mad at me when I tell them they need to bake cookies. They come out and win rocket contests. So if I make them mad and they do well, that's great. I don't mind this. This is Darren Stair's rocket. It did real well in the appearance judging. Our contest is divided into basically into two types of competition. They build their rockets for the sake of appearance, and of course we're working in our club right now on foiling the fins and reducing the drag and increasing the performance of the rocket. These two particular rockets flights were about an hour that day with the wind velocity that we had. Of course, Elizabeth Murray built this. This is a model of the Challenger. This is one of my favorites personally.
Right. One of the things I'd like to stress, we may have overlooked, are these model rockets actually fly, and some of them fly quite high. The range somewhere between 50 feet to, on some occasions, as much as about 3,000 feet. Naturally, something going like that has a few safety regulations that go with it, and with each piece of merchandise that the Estes Company packages, they also include a model rocketry safety code. The rockets are basically built from cardboard tubes. There's always a recovery device of some description. The most common, probably the most popular of which is a parachute. I think we can pull one of these out real quick here. Oh, there's my payload section. This will be the parachute that comes out of the inside. So these all float back down, in this case by parachute. We have a payload recovery area here. This is where you can launch some cockroaches or some non-mammal type critters. Nobody seems to get upset if you hurt a cockroach on occasion, but they survive pretty well. The engines also are prepackaged engines. They're made in a cardboard tube. There's a clay nozzle on the end. The ejection charge releases the parachute or whatever the recovery device is. In some cases we have one here that has a swing wing recovery. There's some that tumble recover, some streamers. Dr. Hardy in her class is going to be using a streamer recovery. Have a call here on line 2. Let's see if we can do that. You're on the air.
Yeah, you talked briefly about the engines, but go over what kind of propulsion engines you have and how they're used, and also if you use any kind of telemetry at all. I'll hang up and listen.
Great. Sure, these are solid fuel engines. If you'll remember the boost rockets on the side of the space shuttle, those are also solid fuel rockets. They ignite instantly, electrically. You're at least 15 feet away from it on ignition, and it's a one-time use. You recover the rocket, and then you go back and fly it again with another engine. So that's the way these work, and it works out very successfully, very safely. Yes. We've got another call here. You're on the air.
Yes, I'd like to know how much that big rocket to your left is.
The big Saturn V. Those are running about $50 now in kit form. Please remember, all of these are in kit form, and they require construction. Instructions
Or
too. Both.
Okay, thanks.
Right. Okay, the Saturn V is this one over here. This is what put men on the moon. The Apollo module up here on the top, this is where the astronauts stayed, and it took this much thrust to take them all the way out to the moon. Those of you who've been down to Cape Kennedy or up to Huntsville, Alabama, will remember seeing one of these. In that particular case, they have it laying on its side, and it's quite a monstrous rocket. Now, technology has passed this one by a long way with the shuttle program and some of the other programs that they were looking at in the future. So this, even though they have some of these left around, the technology has so far surpassed this that they won't be using these anymore. Monstrous, monstrous rocket. This particular rocket is also a parachute recovery rocket. The scale rockets, as the SR-71 and the Phoenix rockets, some of these have the scale appearance. On many occasions, you kind of sacrifice a little bit of performance for scale appearance. Okay. You're on the air.
I wanted to ask you, did you actually got to put baby powder on the parachute because they won't catch on fire or something?
Okay, let me answer that on the air here. We use baby powder on the parachutes. Now, I like to call that parachute powder because real men, now you don't want to have guys running around with baby powder. So on the can of baby powder that I carry around, I've crossed out baby and it now says parachute. But that's sprinkled into the parachute, which is a very flimsy plastic, and that keeps the parachute from sticking together. The protection from the flames is done with flame-proof recovery wadding, and I'd like to stress that this is flame-proof. That's the important thing. Please don't use flammable materials. You're on the air, please.
Good evening, Terry. I just tuned in. I have a couple of questions for you.
Right.
The first one being, about what age would you recommend a person starting in model rocketry? And second, where can I get a hold of this kind of equipment? And, just where would you suggest I get started in this kind of thing?
All right. What I recommend is at an age of about 10, that seems to be a particularly good age with adult supervision. As we get older, and there's no upward limit, we've had a fellow that was about 55 to 60 years old who's also flying model rockets, and it's an exciting thing to do. The countdown is really, really pretty thrilling as you go along. So these are available in your friendly neighborhood hobby shops, such as Bobe's Hobby House, and other places that deal in hobby materials. And we have another call on two. You're on the air.
Yes, I'd like to know how much is your biggest rocket and what size it is.
The biggest rocket engine is a D-size engine, and those run about $5.49. It's worse than I thought. That's for three rocket engines, and that gives you the opportunity to fly and launch 3 times if you can recover it that often. So that works out pretty well.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Bert, we're kind of holding this out for the youngsters. The several times that I've been to the classroom, it's kind of neat because we walk in and talk about model rocketry safety, how these things are done, and the kids like to stop and listen to you because the excitement of watching the rocket fly. A lot of times when we go in and say, if you listen to this carefully, we're going to go outside and fly the thing afterwards. And everybody wants to hold up for that and go out and see the rockets fly. Okay. You're on the air.
People say that Mean Machine and Mini Me Machine doesn't go so high because of the height. So is that true? Like, is it so tall that they go real far in the air?
Okay, let me answer that on the air. The Mean Machine, let me bend over and pick this up. This is a Mean Machine. This rocket is, here, we'll get it right side up. This rocket is over 6 feet tall. It's still a cardboard tube construction. It's powered by a D-size engine, and people lose these things. I find that remarkable initially, but I've seen them fly, and they fly quite well. They go well over 800 feet. People seem to want to always paint them black because that's what's on the box top. And when it's up in a pine tree, a black rocket just doesn't show up very well. So one of the major problems with this is in storing and transporting it. Now you've got a 6'2" cardboard tube. Where do you put it? This particular rocket has a little bit of a crinkle that we've tried to repair where it was slammed in a car door. Now if you're driving a Volkswagen, a Mean Machine is not the rocket to fly. Okay, we're ready to go.
We'll get back. We'll talk a little bit more about the young
We'll talk about
astronauts
some more in
program.
just a moment. Welcome back to Bobe's Hobby House. We've got a few more things we'd like to cover. Bert, you've mentioned the space camp that's going to be right here in Pensacola.
Right, it won't be quite as exciting as the Huntsville project, but I think we've got a program outlined for middle school and young high school students. It's going to be pretty exciting. Michael Aaron with the Pine Forest Community School has received a grant to head up this project, and what we're going to do this summer, starting on June 16th, is have a 6 weeks program on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 o'clock until 12 o'clock. We're going to take 2 field trips, one to the planetarium at PJC and one to the Aerospace Museum on the Navy base. Ronald Ware from Fort Walton's even going to come over and talk to us about UFOs. He's been researching this project for quite a few years, so we're going to investigate the alien possibility.
Okay,
So,
there's a UFO model that flies also.
Right. Let me add this. There's a $10 fee for the course, and that's going to include a model rocket, which the student will be required to construct with supervision, of course. And the first 30 kids that show up and register the first night of school, we're gonna work with them.
And for the people who saw the movie Space Camp, you don't get to fly your own rocket. That's sort of inside.
We're not going to let anybody ride the stacks in this one.
Okay, we've got a couple of things. One of the things that I wanted to mention, and I mentioned briefly a moment ago, were the instructions. One of the first things that it's really important to do as a student is learn to follow instructions, and that doesn't apply only to students. When adults build rockets or other items, a lot of times they'll talk about the instructions are what you look for when it's not working well. You'll find in the instructions as you go along, and the students I've watched in the classroom do this, have a little check mark by each of their steps as they've gone along. And that helps them keep track of where they were in case they're interrupted and have to go back and find, oops, here's where I was yesterday. I had to go to sleep last night, but this is the spot. So that's the thing we've done to find the way through the lesson plan.
Well, one thing I want to add too, it may be hard to get a child to read a book, but if they go through and they map out the details regarding the construction of the rocket, and they go through the problem-solving techniques if things don't fit well or this doesn't work just right, and they overcome these barriers as far as reading for details, I think it really builds up their ability in the classroom. So I would encourage any parent to use Rocketry just to encourage reading.
Okay, we have a call here online. Yes, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, Mr. Bobe. This is Victor Hearn.
Right.
Hey, Victor.
To your left, that big old space rocket, is this a 2-stage?
It's a single-stage rocket, depowered only.
All right, thank you.
Right. And then we have one here. You're on the air. I may have lost somebody that time. Hello?
Hello, I'd like to ask Mr. Rice a question.
Sure.
How many students in the chapter at Workman of the young astronauts?
We have on registration right now about 34 to 36 students. Our meetings have been showing 14 to 20 students. We've even had parents show up on occasion. Thank you for asking me that question, because on Friday, Dr. Thomas Jenkins is going to come out and speak with the group on the current aerospace technology in aircraft, some of the modern fighter planes that we're using right now. He has a slide presentation and a lecture that he's going to present on that.
I'd like to ask also, while I have him on the air, if other middle schools have this young astronaut program, and if there's any plans at all for any of the elementary schools to have it, and I will hang up and listen for the answer. Thank you.
Very good question. Thank you again. I have visited with Scenic Heights and Home Elementary, working with the faculty there, and mentioned the Young Astronauts program. Workman, I think, is the only chapter in the county. We were the 691st chapter in the nation. There are now almost 7,000 chapters, I would say, and this is within 2 years. So it's a fast-growing program, and I want to encourage all the middle and elementary school staff members to contact me, and I'd love to work with them and set this up.
Great. You're on the air.
Yes, I'd like to know if, this is Toby Farr, do you think like a high school student could build a rocket like you've made right now, like you have?
I would hope so. That's still a matter of following instructions, and if you can start at 10 years old, certainly the high school age student should be able to do that as well. Okay, we have a call here. Yes.
The white rocket to your left there,
Yes.
which size motor does it hold?
Okay, this is a D-size engine, D12-3. It's a very short delay. It's because of the parachute recovery, the weight, and the drag. This can't have a very long delay, or it'll be on the ground before the parachute opens, and that's bad.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right.
Right. Okay, this is the large rockets. I think American rocket builders like to make them bigger and better and whatever. So this is one of the scale rockets, and I think this is causing a lot of attention because of its size. We have another rocket over here. This is one of the modern Phoenix type missiles. These are used, I'm told, on F-14 aircraft. This is an air-to-air missile. We'll refer to that as a rocket. And of course, we have smaller rockets. We have this little blue job down here. This is an Astron Scout, and this is done with a tumble recovery. We have unusual rockets. The glide recovery down here on the bottom, as the ejection charge goes off on this one, the pops around, the wing folds out, and it comes back as a glider. So this is one that appeals to me personally. By the way, this was built by my wife, Sandy, so here's another case of the ladies can do it too. It's very successful, by the way. All right, we're coming down to the bottom edge of it. We've mentioned that we're firing these electrically, parachute recovery, glide recovery, tumble recovery, a lot of different lines on there. All right, we have a call here. Yes, you're on the air.
Yes, I want to compliment you on a job well done for getting little ones interested in model rocketry, because when I was little, there was hardly anyone that showed interest, and I just want to say thank you very much.
Appreciate the call.
Have a good one.
Right. One of the things we found at the Brownsville Middle School, the first place I ever saw a rocket fly was at Brownsville Middle School, and one of the youngsters that was flying there about 15 years ago has become the launch director on a nuclear submarine. So he's flying his rockets on a much larger scale now. Yes, sir, you're on the air.
Hello, the rocket sitting in front of you, what size motor does it have?
The small one down here?
Yeah.
Okay, this can use anything from a half-A engine, which will probably take it up only about 50 feet, to a C engine, which would take it up to around 1,200 feet. So there's a lot of variety here depending on the size of the space that you have to recover it in, and that's one of the things you have to remember is the recovery area.
All right, thank you.
Okay. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. I'd like to know what's the biggest rocket y'all have? I mean, the most high powered, the one that that can get the highest range and area.
Okay, let me answer that. As it happens, the rockets that are the biggest aren't necessarily the ones that fly the highest, because you've got considerations such as weight, drag, and the power of the engine to boost it. So you have these very large rockets over here that are powered by the same size engine as the Omega down here on the front row. Because this is a lot less weight, much less drag, you'll find that the Omega rockets certainly go much higher than the Saturn V. Those are some of the things that are going into consideration. A lot of times you're sacrificing those glamour points of the scale rockets again versus the functional rockets as we go along. Okay. Bert, anything else we ought to touch on before we pack this up?
Well, I'd like to thank two people who have helped me assist the children in developing an interest in the spectacle of model rocketry. Hopefully the spectacle of this thing will carry them into a worthwhile career. But I'd like to thank the principal at Workman last year, Mr. Frank Willis, and the current principal, Mrs. Jan Williamson, because they've encouraged me and made things happen, and with their help I've been able to transfer that on to
Great
the
to have the support from administration, too.
It's got to be. It's got to be. They've got to have that vision, and they got to help the teacher.
Great. Got one last call here. Yes, you're on the air.
Yes, this is Brian Buns, and I was wondering about that little thing, the SR-71 in the bottom corner.
Right.
What size parachute does that use?
That only has about a 12 to 14-inch parachute. That comes down fairly quick. It's not a glide recovery, so that comes down pretty quick.
Okay, thank you.
Right, thank you. All right. We've got just a few seconds left here, and we're going to move right into the blast-off part. Please watch the commercial at the tail end of this, and you'll see an actual rocket fly. We were told that we can't fly rockets in the studio because there's a fairly low ceiling, and it's kind of smoky in here. The next show we'll be doing will be in 2 weeks, same time, same place, and this will be regarding folk art painting. Gail Beard's going to come down and put on a very lively demonstration showing traditional folk art painting and a little bit of country kind of techniques to go with it. So that should be an exciting show too. Look forward to seeing you then.